When planning a trip to Peru, visiting Machu Picchu is non-negotiable. Beyond that, how you choose to spend your time is where you have to start making some difficult decisions. None more important on whether to hike the Inca Trail. To help you weigh your options, I'll share a week-long itinerary that features what's possible when you settle for taking the train. Prepare to take in highlights of the Sacred Valley, climb a pyramid that dates back 2,000 years, and find penguins in one of the driest places on Earth. Here's an overview of what to expect. While you'll likely arrive in Lima, the trip starts by continuing on with a flight to Cusco. To avoid altitude sickness, I recommend immediately taking a car down to the town of Pisac for your first night. The following day is spent exploring the Sacred Valley and wraps up around taking the train to Aguas Calientes. Day 3 is dedicated to touring the ancient wonder of Machu Picchu. Afterwards, I'll set aside a day to explore Cusco before you head back to Lima. The last part of the trip includes a 2-day excursion to the coastal town of Paracas and the Oasis of Huacachina. I'll share some tips on how to best manage all the logistics, along with a solid game plan for your bags. Stick around to the end to learn where you can see a prehistoric geoglyph that is large enough to be seen from 12 miles away. So with that said, let's get to it. Before arriving in Cusco, you should have a transportation plan sorted. While there are a number of tours that you can join, I found that hiring a private driver was more cost-effective and offered you the increased flexibility that I desired. If you're comfortable with a Spanish-speaking driver and don't require the services of a tour guide, I recommend booking through the Datum taxi service. Reservations can be made through their website. Just specify exactly what it is that you're looking to see and expect to pay around $70 for a full day. My driver Nelson was prompt, attentive, and professional. For your first day, you'll want to book a half-day taxi to take you the 1-hour drive from the Cusco airport to your Pisac hotel. Along the way, I recommend stopping to visit the Manos de la Comunidad, where you'll have a chance to learn about the many different types of llamas and alpacas. I thought these shaggy ones were the best, even though they were too cool for what I was feeding them. You'll also view a rare Andean condor and vicuñas, which produce the most prized wool in the world. Before your taxi service wraps up, make sure to have them take you to the nearby ruins. These wonderful ruins spread across the mountainside and offer fascinating nooks and crannies to explore, amazing stonework, and beautiful views. I also found it to be less crowded than the other sites I visited. While the climb around the ruins is modest, take it slow. You're still acclimating to the elevation. This is also where you should buy the Boleto Turismo Pass that will give you access to many of the major archaeological sites in the region. I decided to stay in a vacation rental with a beautiful garden just outside of town where our host prepared some tea with cocoa leaves to help with managing the altitude. It was also easy to get around town by taking a tuk-tuk, where we had a great dinner. Start the next morning by taking a few hours to explore the Pisac market. I found plenty of local vendors offering artwork, jewelry, and fresh vegetables. Also, don't pass up an opportunity to have your picture taken with a baby alpaca. Afterwards, schedule for your driver to pick you up. You'll have a full day of sights to see as you travel through the Sacred Valley. Start with a 90-minute drive to the salt mines of Maras. For a modest fee, you'll have an up-close view of the 6,000 evaporation pools. These are fed by a naturally occurring salt spring and have been operated by local families for over 500 years. Just further down the road, you'll find the Terraces of Moray. Aside from its unique beauty, this fascinating site offers a glimpse into the sophistication of the Incas. You'll walk around a series of 3 rounded terraces that were used as an agricultural laboratory. Each features a different ring of soil samples that is subject to unique microclimates, allowing farmers to determine how crops perform under different conditions. Once you wrap up, I suggest grabbing lunch in Yorobama. There are a few good restaurant options on a street to the northwest of the city center. After lunch, continue with a 30-minute drive to Ollantaytambo, where you'll find an ancient Incan fortress. It's an impressive site that will require climbing a fair amount of stairs. It's worth it though. You'll be rewarded with ever-changing views of a historic granary and mountains against the late afternoon sun. As you wrap up, make sure to tour the ceremonial temple that features a fountain and scenic stream. This can be found at the base of the site near the local market. Ollantaytambo happens to be a major departure point for the train to Aguas Calientes, the small town where you'll spend the night before you visit Machu Picchu. I recommend booking an evening train for the nearly 2-hour ride well in advance of your trip. Before boarding the train, I recommend having your driver take you to the hotel that you're going to be spending the following night at to drop your bags. You won't need your heavier bags on the train as it has limited space and it's only going to be for the overnight. Upon arriving in Aguas Calientes, check into your hotel, grab some dinner, and buy some tickets at the Consulter bus office. Remember to do this the day before they close at 10 p.m. and bring your passport. While spending $24 on a round-trip ticket may seem excessive for a few-mile ride, it's your only option to avoid the 1,200-foot climb. There are a number of different ways to experience Machu Picchu. First thing to note that is if you want to see everything, you're going to buy multiple tickets. I wanted to be the first one in the park, so buying tickets for circuit number 1 affords you that opportunity. It is also unique in that it is the only path that allows you to access the iconic vantage point of the Guardian's house. Unfortunately, there's a risk that when you start early, the mornings are often covered in a veil of mist. Rather than wait for the perfect picture, as many of the other tourists did, I went ahead and started to work my way through the citadel. What a great way to avoid the crowds. It was an incredible experience in such a special place, especially as the morning light constantly changed as it pierced through the fast-moving clouds. I booked my tickets months in advance. For me, visiting the citadel wasn't enough. My ultimate goal was to climb Waynapicchu, the taller of the peaks overlooking Machu Picchu. Only 200 of these tickets are sold each day. After you enter your name on the hiking log, you're in for a 2 to 3 hour hike. Make sure to bring some bottled water as it will require a 1,000-foot climb, including a steep climb called the Stairs of Death. While demanding, the hike doesn't require any scrambling and it's worth 360-degree views. I chose to be one of the first ones on the trail for a few reasons. It's more comfortable climbing in the cooler morning hours and it's less crowded. If you're of moderate physical fitness, I highly recommend undertaking it. To complete your tour, you'll return along the lower part of the citadel, which, while interesting, doesn't offer as many incredible views. You'll exit shortly thereafter and take the bus back to Aguas Calientes. Plan to grab lunch in town before picking up your overnight bag from the hotel and catching a return train in the early afternoon. When selecting which return train to book, select one that has the glass domes so that you'll be able to take in views of the valley. Upon arriving in the station in Ollantaytambo, you should be able to walk the distance to the hotel where you dropped your bags at. Go ahead and check in and freshen up from the hike to grab some dinner. By your 4th day in the valley, you'll likely be acclimated to the elevation. Schedule a driver to pick you up in the morning for the 90-minute drive that will take you to your hotel in Cusco by way of Chinchero, a town said to be the birthplace of the rainbow. There you'll find another ruin that's definitely worth checking out. It's less visited and uniquely features an on-premise church. While in the area, I also stopped to visit some local artisans. It was fun to learn about the natural dyeing techniques and get a chance to try on some of the traditional garb.
Look, it's a different.
Wow,
Before and after.
way better.
One color.
Wow.
Yeah, one color.
Wow.
Amazing.
For chains and fix, we use this mineral alum stone. Alum stone is for other colors. Look at
Beautiful.
it's different tones. For other colors, we use lemon juice. Lemon juice is for chains and fix that color. Look, one color. For chains and fix, we use salt from Salinas. This salt is for other colors. For chains and fix that color.
Wow.
Once you arrive in Cusco, check into your hotel for 2 nights. I recommend staying in the historic city center. It offers so many great walkable areas and an impressive Zocalo, where you'll find many great shops and restaurants to explore. While the city's cathedral is impressive, I would recommend spending your time at Coricancha, the site of the main temple of the Incan Empire. Once featuring walls covered in gold, it was demolished to make way for a new church. Now you'll find a museum, terraced gardens, and remarkable Incan stonework, where the stones fit perfectly without the need for any mortar. One of my favorite attractions was a series of modern art paintings, one of which illustrated how the Sacred Valley matches up along the dark parts of the Milky Way galaxy. The other shows how the four major regions of the Incan Empire were bisected by lines featuring major cultural destinations, believed to represent a location for each day of the year as a way to increase cohesion across the empire. For your last day in Cusco, spend the morning touring Saqsaywaman. You can either take a quick Uber ride or climb up to this impressive fortress that overlooks the city. It's famous for its giant stones that weigh as much as 200 tons that were carved, transported, and placed with incredible precision. While you're walking among the alpacas, think back to a time in this location when a significant battle took place between the Incas and the Spanish conquistadors. As you tour the site, also be on the lookout for hidden tunnels. There's also a built-in slide on the side of the mountain. Back in town, you'll find a number of museums to explore. Later in the evening, if you're up for a drink, there's plenty of nightlife options. I visited a pisco sour bar and had a chance to sample a number of incredible cocktails. Plan to fly out early the next day. It's best to take one of the first flights, as the Cusco airport can be chaotic and prone to unpredictable weather. It'll also give you more time on the ground to tour Lima. The city is huge, with 11 million people living in the metro area. As for where to stay, I recommend booking a hotel in the Miraflores district, where you should be able to walk freely without any concerns. Once settled, head out to the Huaca Pucllana ruins. There you'll find the remains of an ancient pyramid that's nearly 2,000 years old. This imposing structure is unlike anything else I've seen. You'll find rows upon rows of mud bricks that have been stacked on top of each other. It's also only a fairly recent excavation, where tours only started offering access to the top in the last few years. Other area attractions include Museo Larco, which offers some well-done exhibits on pre-Columbian artifacts. There's also a fantastic restaurant on premise that I would suggest making a lunch reservation for. Speaking of food, Lima is a globally renowned gastrological destination with plenty of options to choose from, including 3 Michelin star restaurants. If you're looking for some nightlife, head down to the Barranco neighborhood. This is where I found a contemporary artisan market and live music. The last thing I'll suggest is heading down to the main center, where you'll have a chance to see the city's cathedral and the country's palace. To wrap up your trip, I'm going to suggest splitting up your stay in Lima with an overnight excursion down the coast. Leave your heavy bags with the hotel and hire a driver or book a ride on the Peru Hop bus service for a 4-hour drive. You'll be amazed with all there is to see. First is one of the driest places on the planet, Paracas National Park, receiving less than 1 millimeter of rainfall each year. You'll be amazed by a landscape that's entirely devoid of vegetation, yet surrounded by some of the most productive fisheries in the world. In the nearby town, you'll also have an option to take a boat tour out to visit some of the small, uninhabited islands that in the 1800s were Peru's top export, bird guano. This was so sought after as fertilizer that it even prompted a series of wars. Now you're treated to sea lions and plenty of bird lice. If you're lucky, you'll even find some penguins. You can also visit some of the wineries in the nearby town of Inca, where you can sample some of the best pisco in the country. I decided to book my overnight on the water. This was a more relaxed option and enjoyable after such a busy week. If you're looking for a more lively backpacker vibe, run ahead to Huacachina. Either way, you'll want to make it out there to experience the incredible oasis that is surrounded by the largest dunes in South America. I had a blast going out on the dune buggies as we raced across the dunes. At one point, we reached the top of one of the most dramatic drop-offs, where there's only one thing to do when they hand you that sandboard. Taking in the sunset is a remarkable way to wrap up an incredible trip in Peru. As promised, let me tell you about an ancient geoglyph that dates back to 200 BCE. While touring the islands off Paracas, you can't help but notice the large markings on the hillside referred to as the Candelabra. It is 600 feet tall and carved 2 feet deep into the rocks. If that's the type of attraction that interests you, look into some nearby charter flights to see the Nazca lines. All the destinations I've highlighted have pretty comfortable year-round temperatures. I would, however, recommend traveling between the months of May and September to avoid the rainy season and improve your chances of seeing the sun. I went in May and it was perfect, though shoulder season months also see fewer crowd sizes. Peru is a very affordable destination. Excluding airfare, this whole trip can be done for under $4,000 comfortably for two. Well-appointed places to stay can be had for just under $100 per night. For meals, plan to spend about half of what you would for comparable service in the United States. Let me know in the comments if you visited Peru. I'd love to hear what you thought about it. Make sure to check out my other videos on where to go next. If you found this video to be helpful, please like and subscribe. While I'm sure this could be your next perfect trip, stay tuned to see what's next.